What is going on, everybody? I am one of the co-hosts to Social Media Church, DK Hammonds. I'm the one with the hair. The one without the hair is Niels. Niels, that's my guy, Niels. Niels should be running another podcast, but we do this tag team type of thing. And I had something that I want to talk about with a good friend of mine named Dan. Dan, how you feeling? Welcome to the podcast. How's it going for you today, brother?
The beautiful day in Middle Tennessee. I just saw DK last week in Dallas
Yeah.
at the CITN conference. It was good to meet in person, and now we get to have this conversation. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, if y'all don't know what CITN, that's Church Information Technology Network. Shout out to all my friends over there. I'm going to tell you this. This is not a pub, nor am I getting paid for it. It's by far one of my favoriteest, and that's not a word, conference to go to, because it is really intentionally focused on those who are in information technology. Here's the water bottle we got from there. Those who are focused on information technology, it doesn't matter which level you're in, it kind of attacks that. One of my favorite conferences every year. Next year, it will be in Cincinnati. So you guys want to probably get on there. And it doesn't cost much to go to this conference. Again, they have a short window, a short amount of people that they're trying to get. So please, ma'am, please, sir. Again, they're not paying me for it. But if y'all want to, I'm not knocking it. They're not paying me for this, but definitely CITN, man, one of my favorite places. And this year it was in Dallas. And let's talk about the food.
Let's talk about the
Let's
food.
talk about the food in CITN. Tell me how you felt about the food at CITN.
Well, the first night they pull out the barbecue, which I guess if you're in Dallas, and it's just a different level of barbecue. I mean, in Nashville we got our hot chicken, which is awesome,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But it's just different level. And then I've done a bunch of conferences. I know you have too, DK. But then on Monday, the first day for the afternoon snack, what are they handing out? Fresh baked cookies with
Yes.
scoops of ice cream in
Yes.
the middle. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? That's way better than a granola bar.
It's super better than a granola bar. Cookies were fresh. Cookies were good. I think it's called Play-Doh or somebody like that.
I don't remember.
And it had the ice cream in there. There was good ice cream. And they had some great Mexican food one day. I think it was chilos or something like that. Man, the food was amazing. Classes galore. Product tables galore. Everything you need that's for an information or communication person was at this conference. And I think even more so what's at the CITN is community. A lot of us know each other. We are in the Discord group with one another. We connect on that level. Tell me a little bit how you felt about the community at CITN.
It was unbelievable as a newcomer into the community, and all the setting up all the arrangements to be there and all of that. I just felt like an instant member, like I was with friends.
Yeah, man.
Right out of the box, and having a bit of a technical background, I felt right at home with these people, and knowing that at the core of it, we're all about bringing people to Jesus.
Yeah, man.
So if you can mix what your gifting is and what your skill is, along with your passion to populate heaven, that just makes for a great community.
Always, always, always. And community is what this particular channel and podcast is all about. Dan, tell the people a little bit about yourself and the community that you represent.
Sure. So I've been in the marketing and radio side of things for over 30 years. Some of that was on the secular side of things, but for the last 20 years or so, I've been in Christian media, Christian radio, Christian digital for radio, and then also partnering with a bunch of nonprofits and other ministries from a digital perspective, Google Ad grants, social media, all that sort of thing. And so I am now with Hope Media Group, which it's a combination, it's a group of a couple of dozen radio stations throughout the U.S. You may know them as Way FM. in your market. And we also have KSBJ, which is the number one rated radio station in Houston. And we also have a new Spanish language Christian music network called Vida Unida with radio stations in Houston, Miami, and New York City. Cumulatively, that's a radio audience of about 2 million listeners
Wow, man.
a month cumulatively. So that's Hope Media Group. We also have Hope Nation, which creates loads and loads of content with some of your favorite Christian artists, music artists, and authors and podcasters. We have podcast channels on there. None of them are as good as this one, of course. But so we're a Christian media company, and kind of where I've started engaging with is over the last about a year is some new software products that we're starting to come out with as a part of our Christian media.
Yeah, that's good, man. And software products are always good. And I think in this case, I know about the product, have used the product, but let's shift our gears. Again, we're still talking about community, how we can now support community in prayer. So I feel like digital, we probably don't have enough people praying or enough people visibly praying where we can see it. And there have been other tools, but I think those tools have been fairly clunky when you think about the user interface and user experience, that it makes it fairly hard to do. And so, Dan, how do you view prayer in the digital space?
Well, I think prayer is a core calling of the Bible.
Yeah, man.
I mean, Old Testament, New Testament, right? It's there's all about prayer. And if you read, from the Apostle Paul and all his letters to the churches, he's constantly telling them that he's praying over them and asks for their prayers in return, right? And in those times, in the early days of the Bible and the New Testament, before it was the New Testament, everything was letters, right? And he wrote them and he told them, I'm praying for the church at Corinth. I'm praying of the church for Rome. I'm praying for the church in this city and that city. And he asked for their prayers. And probably more than likely, he gets their letters and they say they're praying for him. And that's all great, but it could be days, weeks, months between that. And so what we like about digital is that prayer can be in real time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be in real time. You can put a prayer request, out there in the digital space, and people can be praying for you virtually immediately for that need.
Yeah.
So that I'm a big believer in prayer. I know that if it weren't for a praying grandmother, I don't know if I would be alive today.
Amen.
To be frank, right? And we can all look back in our lives and see times where people have prayed over us, because we've all had challenging times in our lives. Sometimes it was a short season, sometimes it was a long season where we needed prayer. But we can also think about all the times that we prayed over someone and saw God working through our prayers in their lives.
Yeah, that's real good, brother. And I think about prayer being the answer to a lot of our solutions, but having a space and place where I can go, be prayed for, also do prayer, and also maybe see some solutions behind it. Because it's one thing, in my opinion, to go and just pray. There's another thing to stand around and watch the tangible manifestation of God happen in real time. And so sometimes we speak about the prayer. We talk about praying, but we don't stay around to see the manifestation. And I think we have a solution. We've talked about the problem that may exist and how digital can impact us in the area of prayer. And prayer can be used, it's a universal language, and it can be used across denominations, across people lines, across everything, right? But now we get to use, maybe potentially have a product that can help us see some of these very things that we're talking about. Dan, can you tell us about a product that you may know about that can help us with that?
Sure. So here at Hope Media Group, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we own several dozen radio stations across the country. And we're always talking about ways to create engagement and to create community. And we have lots of different ways to do that. One of those great ways to do that is social media. One of the great ways is through our air staff and the content that we put out. But one of the most powerful engagement tools and ways that we found to build community is through an online prayer wall that we have on our radio station websites. It's an opportunity for our listeners at our radio stations to go on there and put a prayer request, whether anonymously or with their name, however they choose. And then the entire radio station network community can pray over that prayer request.
Yes.
Then when that person who makes that prayer request, when somebody prays for that or comments and gives an encouragement on that prayer request, the original requester gets a notification, either by text or email, that someone is praying for them at that moment.
Good.
In real time. I mean, DK, how many times have you been in a group of friends or people or your small group or, just with your family even and said, you know what, I could really use some prayer about this.
Yeah.
About this thing. And you're fairly confident that someone you mentioned that to will pray for. You're reasonably confident of that. But you don't know when they prayed for it. But with the product that we have, our prayer wall, our listeners do. And what's really great about our prayer wall is Wade FM is in several markets across the country. And if you put a prayer request on there, you start getting notifications. And it said someone from Dallas just prayed for you. Someone from Colorado Springs just prayed for you. Someone from West Palm Beach just prayed for you. And let me tell you, man, you feel that sense of community and engagement.
That's good.
Through that.
That's so rich, and I think that's so important to know that somebody is considering how we can broaden or strengthen community through prayer. Very few people are actually out here doing that. We sell a lot of products and services, but very rarely do we see a place where we can put these prayer requests at, have somebody to pray for them in real time and tangibly be able to follow up with it. And I love that this product can do that. So Dan, help our audience understand, what was the inspiration behind the creation of God Listens and the digital prayer app, and how that aligns with the Hope Media?
So again, it goes back to our radio stations, right? We wanted to create engagement and community with our listeners of our radio stations all the way across the country. And so we thought, well, how do you build community in the faith space? And that is when you pray for each other. Because then when you pray for somebody, you're kind of invested in them. And what I love about it is that not only do people put prayer requests on the prayer wall, but they also put answered prayers.
Oh, that's good.
On there. And it's amazing to see that something that you've prayed over days later, weeks later, months later, pops back up there, and you say that there was an answered request. We have one woman on our prayer wall that put a prayer request to pray for her and to pray for her neighbor because she wanted to witness to him and get him to go to church with her. And she basically ran a serial of posts on the prayer wall about trying to connect with him and to witness to him and to pray for encouragement from the audience and from the other community members as she went through this. And slowly but surely, she mentioned that they talked for a while on the street, and then he, came to church with her, and then he got baptized, and it was just powerful to watch God move in real time on this prayer wall. It was just so encouraging. But that was for our radio stations. And so as we saw the success with that, and now we're on lots of other radio stations are utilizing this prayer wall as well. But we thought, churches also can have a problem with prayer requests?
Mm.
Is it something that somebody mentions in passing between Sunday school and church service, or rushing out of church service to go out to lunch or to some, family activity? Oh, will you pray for Uncle Bob, or will you pray for Sally's surgery, next week? And you're just kind of mentioning it on the fly. And someone may or may not make a note of that, either mentally or write it in a prayer journal or something. And and even a small church of 50 or 100 people, there could be lots of prayer requests that people may not even want to say out loud,
Sure.
you know, but they might post anonymously on a wall and be encouraged, and then also it just, that's where it creates community. Because in a big, let's say it's a big church of 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000, or a multi-campus situation with several thousand, there's no way you could not have a pastoral care staff large enough for prayer requests not to slip through the cracks. One of my
Absolutely.
favorite conversations at the CITN conference last week was, how does your church handle prayer requests? And I got a lot of puzzled looks, right? Well, we don't really have a plan, or it's kind of convoluted. And I said, well, what if there was a place where people could just put prayer requests and it doesn't overwhelm the prayer and care team or your pastoral staff or your elders? It doesn't
Yep.
overwhelm them. And the whole community of the church could pray over all of those requests.
Yes.
And it kind of watched a light bulb go off in people's heads. So that's why we're bringing this to the church this fall. I'm going to several church conferences this fall and into next year, and just kind of introducing it to the church.
As pastors and church leaders, you know the power of prayer. But today's busy world, it's not always easy to keep your congregations connected and supported. That's where our friends at God Listens Digital Prayer Wall come in. At God Listens, they can help you create a space where the lonely can find comfort, the seeker can discover truth, and believers can grow in their faith. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Imagine a place where prayer requests are shared in real time, where your spiritual milestones and journeys are shared and celebrated, and where your congregation feels connected and supported no matter where they are. Don't let the barriers of time and distance limit your ministry. Text WALL to 67101 to learn more about how God listens and can transform your prayer life. With God Listens, you can expand your church's reach beyond the four walls of your building, creating a digital prayer community that's always available. I love that concept, and I think about pastor, executive pastor, or pastor of pastoral care. Usually they'll have a CRM system that will just be a form, but not necessarily capture prayer requests. Here you can make this thing digital and put it, let's say, on the website, and it is open and you can track if these people are part and or not. So I think that's a really important factor of this prayer wall and how God Listens can partner with your ministry. So Dan, let's think about this. When I think about on that same leadership conversation in terms of tracking and managing these prayer requests, let's say we get 1,000 prayer requests. How can this even help us track and manage? Because a person is going to pray, a person may have an answered prayer. How can the system itself track and manage those same things?
That's actually one of the most beautiful pieces of this, and one that I've really poured a lot of thought and intentionality behind. Because on the back end of God Listens, the front end is the prayer wall. People can leave prayer requests, pray over those, give encouragements on there. They send real-time notifications that you're praying and commenting on that. And that's all powerful and wonderful. But on the back end, this platform has just incredibly robust and powerful analytics, because you have the ability to see the categories of things that people are praying over, whether it's finances or family or health for themselves or health for others or school or work or dozens of categories and you can see in real time. And so one of the things that this helps solve is these aren't felt needs
Mm,
anymore. These are known needs.
that's
You
good.
know, when we first got the categories installed on our radio prayer wall, it was surprising to us. I was real excited to see what that graph would look like, right? What were the number one? I thought it would be health, right? Because we're always praying about this person's surgery or this person's not feeling well. We're always doing that. But it was really the number one thing was, you know, anxiety.
Mm,
Anxiety was such a powerful thing. And what's nice about this is you can see in real time, by day, by week, by month,
yes.
what the top levels of categories are so that you can create sermon content or workshops or Sunday school collateral, whatever the case may be, based on, and what your church in Dallas may be different than another church in Jacksonville, which may be different than a church in Little Rock, which may be a different than a church in Cincinnati or Chicago or wherever. And so this is customized to your church based on the categories of prayers at your church. Also on the dashboard, very, very simple and automatically calculated, you can see how many prayer requests have been placed, how many people have prayed over those requests, how many people have commented or sent encouragement on that prayer request. And what we've done is we've created a KPI called experiences. How many prayer engagement experiences has our prayer wall or has our prayer community had within whatever defined time period that you had? And so that's prayer request, prayers, and encouragements, and that all adds up to experiences. And I'm not aware, and I've done a fair amount of research, I'm not aware of deep analytics for prayer engagement within churches.
Mm. Now
And so
you
that's
said
one of the
something
most
powerful
powerful
right there.
tools.
That's powerful, man. We are asking for prayer, but not measuring it.
Right,
We're not
exactly.
we don't have anything in place that helps us see what the needs of the people are, how we're addressing said need, whether it be through the preaching, or whether it be through pastoral care, or whether it be through executive leadership. There's nothing tangible. So this is a smarter way for us to handle prayer as it relates on our pastoral and leadership team. And I can think if I was in the first chair, if I had a list that says, okay, what are the top 5 things that people are going through on this prayer wall? And I'm able to see that and I'm able to process that and pray for that and even able to preach sermons around some of these said or unsaid needs on that prayer wall. And so that's just really powerful to have a tangible tool that allows us to see the experiences. We can speak to that. We can build programming around that even more and create and bring the community even closer based on just something digital for prayer. And I know I'm a person, man, I ain't gonna hold you. I'm a person that loves digital and I love products and I love playing with these things. They're like my favorite thing to do. But I think this is like important for us to be able to capture prayer and use it to bombard heaven, as well as use it to educate our people to continue to pray. So now our prayer wall is more, organized even. When we want to just run it on the screen, we have all of these names here, all of these requests here. We can point to the prayer wall, etc. It becomes a thing, and I think that's what makes this product super important for our users. Or even if there's other products out there that may do similar, but I think that's important that we can see what's happening in our community and use that information and engagement to our benefit. So I think, Dan, one of my last questions, and I wrap up with this: what features of God Listens particularly are helpful for pastors and communication directors in understanding and addressing the true needs of their congregation, which kind of goes right into what we're talking about.
Right, exactly. It's those deep analytics,
Yeah, man.
right, on the back end, because there's a lot of talk in church and in digital and in social media about felt needs, right? I feel like this. I feel like that. And that's one of the beautiful things about digital and about analytics is that it's real. It's numbers, it's data
Yeah.
that's driving decisions. And I just think that that's really,
Yes.
it's powerful. And something I'd like to really add is that a key feature of this is just spiritual growth,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
Spiritual growth is at the heart of God Listens
Yes.
because the platform allows members not only to share their prayer request, but also to chronicle their faith journeys
Mm.
and
That's right.
spiritual milestones, right? Whether it's answered prayers, personal achievements, moments of gratitude, thanking people
Yes.
on there for helping them achieve these things. But that shared experience that each of the members of your community can have on there, it fosters that sense of belonging that goes well beyond the walls of your church, goes well beyond Sunday morning or Sunday night or Wednesday night, whenever your church gathers, and members can celebrate each other's journeys. And by documenting and sharing these moments, churches can create an environment where every person can feel seen, heard, and encouraged to grow spiritually. One thing that we've heard about is that you can use this tool as outreach.
Yes.
One of the strong, because you invite people to VBS, you invite people to ride ponies at Easter, you invite people to Wednesday night dinners, all the different thing, Christmas and Thanksgiving and all these things, and if you're always inviting them in, inviting them in. What if the entire message of the outreach was just how can we pray for you with a QR code to your prayer wall
It's good.
without even really branding it to your church, right? Let me tell you something, an old school way of doing this. So we live a little bit outside of Nashville, Tennessee, okay? And there's a little road. It's a state highway, but it's just a little 2-lane road. And out there on this road is a little Church of Christ. Okay, I would say I've never been in this church, my guess is it would be packed at 150 people. Okay,
Yeah.
I think they have a little fellowship hall there, parking lot for I don't even know 50 cars maybe. But I noticed one day we go back and forth taking my daughter to school. There was a guy out there in a camp chair and a little like real estate sign that said drive through prayer. And I thought, how crazy. Who's going to just stop on this little 2-lane highway to a guy in a camping chair just saying, how can we pray for you? And yet, almost every time I went by there to or from taking my daughter to school, there was somebody there praying with that guy.
Mm.
Just think if we could take that to scale
Yes. Yes.
at the church. And that's what God Listens does, man. Prayer is so close to my heart
Yeah.
because it's so critical. We're called to it in a
Yes.
very real way. And the fact that we can use the ancient
Yes.
concept of prayer, ancient, and combine it with the technology of the day, not letters like in Apostle Paul's time, but in digital transformation. And it's scary with churches. I totally understand that, right? But this is how our times are communicating.
Yeah.
People in our day are communicating. And so we need to lean into that and go to the ancient call to prayer, but use it in modern technology of digital.
It's good. That's good. We've been talking about God Listens and the actual prayer app. Dan, tell our audience how can they find a product like this and how can they connect with something like
So what we want you to do to find out more about God Listens is It is so super simple. We've got a little guide for you. We call it How to Solve the Prayer Request Puzzle, which I think is something that a lot of churches have. They don't know how to handle the prayer request puzzle. What I'd like you to do is just text a word, the word wall, 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 to 67101. So text the word wall to 67101. You can learn more about God Listens digital prayer app, and you can download our little guide about how to solve the prayer request puzzle through digital prayer communities.
This is good. I need everybody to go follow those instructions, find out how to get connected with this. Use this at your church. I remember back in the day, churches used to put actual walls up in their church, in the sanctuary, with the whole globe on it, and you could put prayer requests there. And we thought that was the thing of beauty, right? But now we have this digitally, where we can pray for anybody, anywhere, anytime, and they can be connected with, answered. This will be an important feature to your leadership team, to your church. And I would just say, let's lean into prayer in this season. We need to pray, and you can't just have digital without prayer. Prayer and digital go hand in hand. And I love to tell people this all the time. Hey, listen, when people think that you in a church that you're going to get rid of all of the ancient things that you mentioned for the digital things, no, we're trying to merge them together to be more efficient for the kingdom of God. Please go look into this feature. Please go look into this app. Please listen to the radio station, and just please continue to pray for Dan as he does the work of Christ, to continue to kind of tell people that we are praying for them and we want to connect with them. Dan, final thoughts for our audience, sir.
As a pastor and church leaders, you know the power of prayer. But today's busy world, it's not always easy to keep up with your congregations, connected and supported. That's where our friends at God Listens Digital Prayer Wall come in. And God does listen. They can keep and help create a space where the lonely can find comfort, the seeker can discover truth, and the believer can grow in their faith. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Imagine a place where prayer requests are shared in real time, where your spiritual milestones and journeys are shared and celebrated, and where your congregation can feel connected and supported no matter where they are. Don't let the barriers of time and distance limit your ministry. Text WALL to 67101 to learn more about how God listens and can transform your church prayer life. With God Listens, you can expand your church's reach beyond the four walls of your building, creating a digital prayer community that's always available.
Final thoughts for our audience. The question I would ask you is, how does your church handle prayer requests? Is there a system in place to make sure that every prayer request gets heard? Every prayer request gets prayed over, not just by one person, not just in an email merge that goes out to everybody, not slips of paper passed around at church staff meetings, not just on the screen during Wednesday night prayer meetings, but that every prayer request can be prayed over by the entire community of your church. That's my encouragement to you, is pray without ceasing, as Apostle Paul commends, right? Pray without ceasing. And we can do that with a product like God Listens Digital Prayer Wall. So, in final closing, everybody text all day long. So I know y'all know how to do this, right? So text the word wall, WALL, to 67101 and learn more about us. DK, man, it is a privilege and an honor to be included in your podcast. I've been a fan from afar, and to actually be a part of this in reality is just, I'm blessed. And I'm blessed to know you as a friend, and I'm blessed to get to know your audience.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to our podcast. God Pray is one of our sponsors, and we just want to make sure that we elevate that in the conversation. And we appreciate you for coming by, man. You can always come by, talk to us about what is new within the radio world as well as this particular app, brother. And you too, y'all already heard the final instruction to CTA. Please go and text that number ASAP to get more information about this prayer wall that can just really transform how we connect and build community. I'm DK Hammonds from Social Media Church. Thank you guys so much. We love you.